more than a couple. There's a million ways to do this, and you guys can get pretty creative with it. A lot of it depends on how much gear and people you have. So just like building a haul system, you wouldn't want to commit to a particular method until you knew how much stuff you have in your team and how many people are here. So if the three are here, you guys are here, I'm going to probably build something different than if it's just me, because it'll be faster depending on what the people are. So just a couple of things I'll show you. It could be pretty helpful in this context for, say, if you were responding to the top of the bridge and you have a vehicle, you have access to gear, you're not concerned about being lightweight, or something like this. This is basically similar to the Petzl Jag. This is a 6-to-1 on one side and a 7-to-1 on the other. It's an Aztec. All pretty similar. Benefit to this thing is it stays together, it's pre-rigged, it's pretty bulletproof, idiot-proof, you don't have to think too hard, it's already set up, so it saves a lot of time. So this is a good option for lifting somebody up, because you can just flip it in and haul until you get enough space to either change it over or to rappelling, to sending them down or hauling them up into a haul system. Right? But I'm not going to let you guys use this because it's too easy. Thank you. Sorry. That's awesome. You can play with it after you're done, if there's time. You're welcome. Yeah. So
here's the cool thing. Here's how to solve the problem, but you can use it.
Here's a great tool that would work for this. You're not allowed to use it. But I am going to give you a rope, because you would have a rope, and whether you're going to go up or down, if this were a rebelay that went way high up, in general it's good not to really trust the person's rope. If it's free hanging and you can inspect it as you come down, you'd probably use it if it's a brand new rope. But if this were outdoor or there's rub spots or things like that, a little safer liability wise, maybe just use as much of your own system as possible. And then the last bit to the patient, you'd use their rope. So you're probably going to have a rope, and you're probably going to have a lot of people to help you. So this rope, I have the two ends separated here. And I'll just show you one method that I like that's pretty simple. Again, there's a million different ways to do this. So I put this carabiner up here in this anchor just to get a separate shelf. So it's called clipping the shelf. And that's just because, obviously, if I clip here, this is what I'm trying to take off, right? So it wouldn't really make sense to clip something there. So I could try to fit something in there as well. This is pretty common to do to get separate. So I have this end of the rope, and then this other end. The nice thing about this, I have a rope with me. I can use one end as a haul system to unweight it, and then I can use this end to tie into their rope once we get the end free to lower them down, if we're going to lower them down. So that could be kind of nice. There's a bunch of different systems you can build. One of my favorites is to use use a micro track. What I like about the micro traction is it's really efficient. So a prusik has some play in it, so you pull up and then it settles down a little, you pull up and it settles down a little. The micro traction captures every little millimeter. So you pull up the tiniest bit and it holds it, which is nice. I'm just going to put this on the wrong way temporarily so I can rig this. don't need a terrible amount to unload this. Kind of depends if you're going up or going down. It's good to build a haul system that you can haul up enough that you can change this into a haul system, into an inline 3-to-1. Now I could unweight this, untie this portion, and lower on this, right? But the risk with doing that is you have this thing, which is kind of a weak point, going down. So if it's going to go over structure, like edges of steel or a rock face with features, it's kind of a risky thing to do. It's a much safer bet to just tie straight into their rope because it can handle that better.
What if you took that and put it over that lip? So you know you're going to lower, right?
Yeah.
So you're not having to repeat an edge as you go over that with your device. You put that over, arm length over, set it so that you can still pull, take the weight off their rope, and then lower without having to traverse an edge.
Yeah, you could do that. Sure.
Are you saying that the device itself is sketchy?
No, it's just, this is pretty, once this grabs, it's not going to let. This has a working limit of 4 kilonewtons. 4 people, basically. But it's still a single point kind of failure. Now, it's just a single line. So if you can mitigate the risk and it's overhanging and there's nothing there, then yeah, you can consider that as an option. Now, prusik, if I were to use a prusik down here, I'd have some trepidation about that because a prusik hits an edge, it starts minding. So I might want to try to unweight it and then tie a backup knot or something to flip to it instead. So, but in general, we're going to show just doing the knot just so you see it. So what does this edge do to our person down there?
Great traction.
Yeah. So how much does that help or hurt us having that friction there?
So which way you're going, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. When you're hauling up, it's a problem. When you're going down, it reduces the load on the anchor. But my rule of thumb is for a 90-degree edge, flat, you can imagine that the load will probably double. And for an edge that's really steep, that's pointed, or there's a lot of dirt contact, it's probably 3 or 4 times what the weight is on it. So keep that in mind as you're hauling this. So you're not just lifting one person, you're also fighting the edge. So you always have the edge problem to solve. So just for the sake of it, I'm going to show keeping 2 points of contact without having myself super involved in the system. But I'd be okay if you guys want to use yourself. Assuming you're clipped to an anchor, you can consider putting a backup to back them up. But I'm just going to throw this prusik on to have that backup. And again, how many points of contact you want to keep is kind of up to you. If you're able to watch it and you know all of your gear really well, then maybe you don't necessarily need to do this. But it's a good thing to start with progress capture of how you're going to hold the rope anyways. So having a plan to reset as a progress capture. Because if I pull here, this locks, right? Once I release this guy. And then I can't reset this very easily without something holding up here anyways, right? So start with progress capture, then figure out a haul system. You ready, Mike?
More or less.
Okay. So,
Take the ride.
so I can haul straight up like this, and I'm able to unweight that. But if this edge were much worse, it would probably be pretty hard to do. It's also pretty unlikely that I wouldn't have another person. So with 2 of us here, that's not too bad. I could also attach it to my harness and do a squat. And the other thing I could do is get another carabiner, just come straight up over the top. And redirect it so that I can use my body weight. Now,
All right, guys, pull them up.
Wait it. Pull up. Do. We're wearing the slips, Eso seguía mostrando la imagen unos segundos. So as I start getting my flat, I can then figure out what kind of pulse system I'm going to set up here. And as soon as I get enough space to start a 3-to-1 or a 2-to-1, I can do that. So I'm going to keep pulling up until I have a little more space here. Oh, we're going into the slot? Yes. Here, I can start working in a more traditional 3-to-1, right? Whatever you want. I do really like the micro just because it holds that tension so well.
So remember, if you have a gun, you want it on the opposite side of the gun, wherever you would wear your gun. Where do you, how do you shoot? Which is your, okay, then that needs to go to the other side. So that's yours to be on this side, or with your right hand is your gun.
That's probably enough that I can get away with that.
That looks like a lot of fun.
Well, that's Mark's personal. Just hanging here shooting out marbles.
So before I reset this to get a little more space, again, I'm going to think about how many points I'm hanging this person on. And I try not to hang somebody just off of one Sorn-ek if I can avoid it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take slack here. I'm just going to tie a backup knot because that's super easy to do. And at least if this slips, you won't go screaming to the bottom.
Cool sound.
Nothing to worry about.
All right.
That's good. Yeah.
Very good light.
So a lot of options on what you put here in this configuration. A fast light one is this combination, which you'll see a lot. It's pretty minimal gear and super light. The tie block is a little tricky to use sometimes, and keep in mind that it doesn't have a spring, so if I let go of it, it can sometimes just go flying down the rope. Space in here and I gain that space back. Again, I can put a little guy up here and immediately try to pull down. It's always easy to pull down with your body weight.
You ready? Okay. So let's wait. And then, so in this situation, we'll wait for actual finish. And then we'll swing.
And this is a good motion that you can do repetitively if you are by yourself. You can sit down, pull up. I can do that pretty efficiently. And it's not super fast, but I can do it.
So the drink
So, that's one way to do
you
it.
are the middle. You will be.
Make sense?
You are the team leader. So you will have to explain to him. I know. Spanish to Thailand. Actually, yeah, you're right. This one. So this one. We're not going to go in.
Right, so again, there's a lot of different ways to solve this problem. You guys don't have to do this way.
One at a time.
A couple of key things though, make sure there's progress capture right off the bat. And it's easy to start with progress capture. You start there, because it doesn't do any good to lift up something if it just goes back down again, right? So figure out what's going to hold it when you lift it up. Then build a haul system. Be able to lift it up. And I'm not going to show you going down, because I'm going to leave that as a challenge to you once you pull them up. We'll have you swap over and lower them down. So I think you can do that. Again, there's extra pulleys over here. You don't have to use the rope. You could also use cord if you wanted to for this. But I'm not going to let you use that.
Yeah, all right. So when you're finished, you does the inspection on the other.
So we'll start with two people out here, and then I'm going to have, once you successfully raise them up, I'll have one of you guys swap out, work with a different person, and we'll switch to lowering that down.
What do you mean by successfully raise them up? Standing on the platform or just?
No, just having the haul system built in place like this, so you're basically ready to haul the whole distance if you need to.
Okay.
Having the haul system.
I'm assuming Andrew had mentioned it, but like this, you call the station convert to lower, the haul system is necessary to unload the main line, and then you're going to rig it into a lowering system, and then lower from there, normally.
Am I going to
Rarely do you want somebody to just come up.
No.
It's a lot easier to work with that.
Yes. And just the whole thought of fighting someone at the edge is generally not a good idea.
Send them down, never touch them.
Yeah. They can't get to your gear. They go right down to a rep team or recovery or whomever, whatever.
River would be even more fun, just dropping them in the river.
At the knot right now for the marble.
Every person I talked to as I was going to that call was like, just take a knife to their rope. Yeah. Sure would be easy, but I don't want to go to jail.
No, you can't do it, unfortunately.
Okay.
Forgot about the marble.
All ready?
Yeah, it's down there.
Is it cold?
Get all three.
I mean, it's there.
It's there, okay.
I'm aware of its presence. More appropriately, my testicles are aware of its presence. You want me to down climb?
Mark, will you go down there and call the stop?
Yep.
Oh! Not many people got to say they've bagged themselves with marble.
True. So just watch and make sure we don't have any oopsies over the edge there.
I'm also completely comfortable with you just make them lower. That's all. No big deal.
Like God gave you two.
Yeah. Appreciate, sir. I'm shitting a landscape. It is. It's called making my life harder.
He's trying to make it harder on me. Multiple ways.
I'm going to add some friction here in a second, too. Done yet?
Oh, goodness. Had to hang a bunch of weight.
Yeah, it was kind of a shitty plan. I could have probably climbed around it by now. It's cool. Doing a great bit of problem solving there, boss. I'm not exactly sure what you're doing, but I'm watching it and learning.
Lower you up.
We'll start down climbing then.
So a couple of things, when you tie a knot, you'll have some slack here. So one thing you can do is lower out our haul system. It's not very efficient, so one way you can get that slack out is just to retie the knot with a whole bunch of tail. So just retie this so it uses all the tail, and then you don't have to worry about that quite much.
เป็นรูปเพจเราจะเห็นชัดไหมไม่ต่างอ่ะพี่จะเห็นชัดกว่านี้ป่ะไม่ต่าง
Alright, so I'm just going to set this as a backup while I test to make sure that this lowerable. You're using most of these devices, like a rig or a stop, you're supposed to have that extra carabiner to direct it towards the top. So keep that in mind. Looks okay. Locks automatically.
It's on the ground.
So I was going to make you guys do that, but you can do it as well. So there's a lot of ways to do it. Like I said, a little bit of planning ahead can get you pretty far. Consider a munter as an option. Tied off munters always are a good idea. If you want to fix something that ultimately has to be lowered, you can combine munters into a haul system. So that little 2-to-1 I made, that hold up with the traction. You can use the end of the rope for that. Have the traction here, just have holding the rope, but then have this a tied off munter instead of just a fixed end. And then you can lower out on the munter. So there's a lot of combinations you can do to solve it. You want to
Yeah, I'm going to take
disconnect that.
We're just going to 86 the marble. Actually, no, we're not, but I have a better plan.
I can help you re-rig it.
No, I got something different going on.
So again, think of the context of this. In the context of a bridge rebelay, you may consider, if you're hauling up, who's going to do the hauling. It may not make sense for you to haul the person through the rebelay if the top of the bridge is way out of fall line. So rebelays often are in place for hanging the rope in a different fall line, right? So if your top of the bridge is up here and the person came down and swung in and did it here, consider what to do in that situation, because you're going to have to unweight the rope and then figure out how to lower it into the correct fall line so the guys on top can finish hauling it to the top, right? So. I'm going to fix this mic.
All right, I'm going to make my problem harder for them.